Why forks were once banned, the shocking history of forks. Forks, every dining table has them. But did you know that this simple utensil was once banned, condemned by the church, and even called an insult to God? Yes, the history of forks is far more controversial than you think. Let's dig into it. Before forks became normal, people ate with their hands, knives, and spoons. In ancient Rome, fingers were perfectly acceptable and even expected at the table. Knives were used to cut, and spoons handled soups and soft foods. But spearing food with a two-pronged tool? That felt unnatural. The fork's story begins in the Byzantine Empire, around the 7th–9th century. Wealthy nobles and royals used small gold or silver forks, mostly for sweets and sticky fruits. In the 11th century, a Byzantine princess named Theodora Ducana married into Venetian royalty. She brought her tiny, elegant forks with her and scandalized the Italians. The clergy called her decadent, claiming using forks was vanity and blasphemy. One monk even wrote, "God in his wisdom has provided man with natural forks as fingers. To use artificial metal forks is to insult him." When Theodora died young of illness, it was declared divine punishment for her arrogance and her fork-using ways. This moment poisoned the fork's reputation for centuries. Across medieval Europe, forks were seen as effeminate, sinful, and foreign. They were linked to the decadent East, especially Islamic and Orthodox cultures, making them suspicious in Catholic Europe. Even in Italy, where forks first arrived, they didn't catch on widely. People kept using fingers and knives, proudly. But then Italy faced a delicious dilemma. Pasta. Long, slippery noodles like spaghetti were hard to eat with just a knife and spoon. Enter the fork, a perfect solution. By the 15th century, Italians quietly embraced forks, at least for noodles. And guess what? Catherine de Medici, an Italian noblewoman, brought forks to France when she married King Henry II in the 16th century. French courtiers found forks strange, but fascinating. Still, adoption was slow. Even the mighty King Louis XIV preferred eating with fingers. It wasn't until the 17th century that forks began to gain respect in Europe, thanks to changing fashion. Wearing fancy lace cuffs and gloves? Wouldn't want to stain them with greasy fingers? Suddenly using forks became refined, clean, and even elite. In France and England, upper-class society slowly shifted toward multi-course meals with etiquette, and the fork became part of the performance. Across the Atlantic, Americans were stubbornly anti-fork. In colonial America, most people still used just a knife and a spoon, and considered the fork a European affectation. It wasn't until the late 18th century, when trade and travel increased, that forks gained traction in the United States. By the 1800s, Americans were finally on board, and by the Victorian era, fork usage exploded. Early forks had just two prongs, mainly to spear food. But they weren't very good at scooping or twirling. Designers added a third, then a fourth tine, giving rise to the modern fork shape, perfect for meat, salad, or pasta. Specialized forks appeared too: fish forks, dessert forks, oyster forks. Forks had arrived and they came in style. So let's recap. Born in the East, banned by the church, blamed for royal death, rescued by pasta, embraced by fashion, finally accepted in America. Today we don't think twice when we pick up a fork, but not too long ago, it was a symbol of arrogance, decadence, and controversy. The fork wasn't just a utensil, it was a battleground between tradition and change, East and West, body and culture. It's proof that even the smallest tools can carry big stories. So the next time someone asks for a fork, just remember, they're reaching for a piece of history. If you enjoyed this deep dive into dining history, give this video a thumbs up, subscribe to Flashback Facts, and drop a comment. What's the weirdest utensil you've ever used? Because here, even forks have a backstory.